Hi, everybody. This is Darren Henry. We're going to get started here. Just verify that audio is working correctly. Okay, so this webinar is entitled Onshape for Engineering Executives. It's meant for engineering leadership who aren't familiar with full cloud CAD or are just getting started with full cloud CAD. What we've done is we've actually talked to many companies that are embracing this new technology, and we've asked them about the benefits of full cloud CAD, how they're implementing full cloud CAD, and we want to share those the feedback we've gotten with you. Now, it's important that you know, just like any webinar, you can type in questions within the question area of the interface. We have a rather large crowd today, so please type in as many questions as you have, and we'll try to get to those during the webinar. The first thing I'd like to do is actually sort of do a level set and make sure that everyone has the base knowledge of what we're talking about when we talk about Onshape and full cloud CAD. So let me start right now by talking about sort of the history. Everybody knows that 3D CAD has sort of became the mainstay of design for most manufacturers. You know, most products are designed today in 3D CAD. What you may not realize or may not think about a lot is that these products are decades old, and they're still installed, and they actually were created in a time before the internet really took hold of every organization where people were conducting business online. They predate Google. In many cases, they predate all the smartphones and tablets that are in the market. So, and if you think about other business applications, CRMs, you know, customer relationship management softwares, ERP softwares, accounts payable, billable, HR softwares. All of these have moved to sort of SaaS-based models, software as a service model. So companies have started conducting business, you know, for over 10 years. They've been conducting business using cloud technology. It's just that manufacturing has sort of lagged in the technology adoption. And there's reasons for that. Mainly, it's computationally intensive. There's a lot of graphic data, and you traditionally needed a high-power workstation to run these applications. We feel now that the internet, the bandwidth speeds, and the computational power can support 3D product development, and that's why it's an area which we're focused on. In fact, Onshape's the only company 100% focused on cloud and mobile CAD. Now, the good news is that there's thousands of companies already doing production level work inside Onshape, and an area that's being heavily embraced. And if you look at sort of our history, we were founded in 2012. We have a rich history in CAD. I'll talk about the pedigree of our company in a second. But what's interesting is this is a movement that has caught the attention of some serious investors and experts in the high-tech field. Silicon Valley, a number of companies have backed Onshape based off their vision. They agree and support with our vision of moving CAD into the cloud. We've raised over $169 million in venture capital. Right now, we have about 100 employees. We're based on the outskirts of Boston, and you know, the development team is not only CAD veterans, but experts in cloud architecture, data centers, and mobile devices, mobile computing. Now, I won't go through all these people, but if you're familiar with sort of the history of mainstream 3D CAD, you may know a lot of our executives. The guy in the middle, John Hirschtick, was the founder of SolidWorks. He is our co-founder and chairman, and there's other executives that had tenure at SolidWorks during the early years. They're on staff here at Onshape, and you know, we're sort of rounding out the team with people like John Russo, who's in charge of our operations, who is very familiar with cloud-based technology. Ravi Reddy on the right is very familiar with mobile-based architecture. So really powerful team with a lot of rich history. When people say, you know, do you have configurations? Do you have different pieces of technology? You know, it's something that our team is well versed at. We understand the importance. In fact, in many cases, it's the team that introduced the original functionality to the marketplace. So I'm really excited about, you know, the level of CAD expertise that's behind this company. You know, when we look at the world, and I was actually just reviewing some manufacturing standards that have changed, and they've changed because the world is becoming more complex for manufacturers. The supply chains include more employees, more contractors, vendors, and customers. The locations of manufacturers today, they've gone global and they're distributed. People are hiring based off talent, not location. So, the internet connectivity allows you to have both remote employees and global customer bases. And we feel that the speed of innovation there's constant pressure to increase your speed, your time to market, increase the amount of innovation you're doing on a product. You need to show that you can collaborate, and you need to show that you're very agile. You're seeing pressure. Manufacturers today are seeing pressure not only from competition, but also small startups that have innovative twists on products because of micro factories, and someone can be very disruptive to the marketplace. So we see a greater pressure for companies to innovate, and we see some challenges with the complex supply chain as well as the distributed workforce. And we think that traditional file-based CAD just offers a lot of friction when you're trying to evolve and handle these distributed supply chains as well as these new pressures to innovate. And let me explain why, and I think this will resonate with most people on this call. You have an installed CAD system, and right away that causes friction. There's $5,000 license fees. Even if you hired an intern and had to get them up to speed on a piece of software, you're talking an out-of-pocket cost. There's a tremendous IT overhead, downloads, installs, updates, and these don't occur just once a year. These occur multiple times in a year if you wanted to stay up to date with the latest and greatest software. In larger organizations, you have to juggle your license codes. You're running out of license codes, the pool of licenses. In many cases, people are buying more software than they need to remove the bottlenecks that they associate with license code juggling. And everybody reports crashing. It's just the nature of the beast. If you're running on one CPU, one computer with the software, it crashes. And people are telling us it crashes, every other day in many cases. There's file compatibility issues. Not only are people using different CAD systems, but if you have an older version of a CAD system, in many cases you can't update. So if you're dealing with customers that use two different versions of software, sometimes that becomes a real nightmare. And you're always worried if everyone within your organization is on the same CAD software release. When you add the data to the picture, you begin to realize, wow, people are writing data, creating data on their own computers. And then when they want to share it, they come up with different mechanisms, whether that be, email, thumb drives, FTP, or maybe they put in file servers and PDM. All of these rely on copies, and that also causes problems, right? You're copying CAD back and forth to servers. You're emailing copies. You're FTPing copies of data. And what happens is you then need to have complexity in ensuring that people have the latest version of the file. You're not overwriting someone else's work. Someone else doesn't have it locked and you need write access. It becomes a nightmare of just managing. And in many cases, the processes you put in place to manage your data, they can impact the speed at which you can innovate. People are putting in now cloud drives. That has sort of sped sharing of data, but it's still working with copies. And you still have those problems with latest versions. Are you writing over someone else's work? Are two people working on different files? And then you have to do redundant work to sort of merge their changes. So those are the hassles that we feel traditional file-based CAD has, and we think we can eliminate completely with a full cloud solution. And that's where Onshape comes in. The CAD system and the CAD data all reside in the same location. We're not a file-based system. We work off a database. And the beauty of this is everyone accesses the same CAD system. There's no file incompatibilities. And when you share data, everyone works with a single database. So there's no need to do the redundant copies, and you don't have the management nightmare associated with that. Do I have the latest version? Of course you do, because you're working with the latest version. Everybody works with the latest version. Do I have the latest version of the software? Of course you do. Everyone on the planet will work with the same version of Onshape. Even as we do updates, everyone's updated simultaneously. Let me talk a little bit about updates. we're a very nimble company, and we're putting out rich functionality every 3 weeks. This was 2015. We were in our beta period. We put out 14 updates, 125 new features. New features. Now that's what a user would perceive as enhancements to the actual functionality. Of course, many more enhancements are done behind the product. And then in 2016, this slide's already out of date because last week we updated with our 7th update of the year. And these are things you can go to our forums. People are amazed at the evolution speed, as well as how great the functionality is. People ask us things like, will you have sheet metal? Yes, it's on the roadmap. And the thing about Onshape is when we talk about our roadmap, it's not a matter of years, it's a matter of months. So it's really interesting how fast software can evolve when you're using it as a service like we're doing in the cloud. Okay, so the other thing, if you're not familiar, people then ask, well, what about the full manufacturing picture, simulation, CAM, and rendering? Well, guess what? We have an app store, and companies see the value of Onshape, and they're investing in integrations. We just launched this app store in Q1 of this year. We already have over 33 partners, and if you go to our app store, you'll notice that they include simulation, CAM, rendering, part libraries, all your standard parts and supplier content. There's productivity tools, everything like time cards and calculators. And then there's data translation tools, so you can quickly print or maybe export. This is a 3D PDF exporter. There's even power surfacing tools. People ask, do you do complex surfacing? We do have surfacing capabilities built into Onshape, loft sweep. You can extrude and revolve a surface manipulation tools, but we have a partner that actually does sub-D modeling. So that's great. And someone just asked that question right now. So go check out the App Store. You can get to it right from within the product. Even more, these are printing marketplaces and productivity tools, so we can flatten any surface as well. Really good stuff. One thing I'd also like to point out is the variety of customers we have is incredible. Huge adoption of Onshape. Not only our free product, but we have a professional subscription. And our professional customers range from startups to large corporations that are piloting projects in Onshape. Just to name a couple, we have companies making machines and IoT devices, consumer products. Stelrad is a radiator company. New cutting edge companies like Avitech. They're doing avalanche safety equipment. And companies that are well established in the market. Clever Furniture is using us for some of their furniture. And we'll talk about furniture later. There's a lot of things we're introducing to each industry that people are finding tremendous value in. So we're approaching over 1 million hours. Actually, we're over 1 million hours now of Onshape usage. People are doing production work. And we wanted to know the benefits that engineering leadership is seeing with full cloud CAD, where they see the benefits, and we wanted to give you some insight on how to start projects in Onshape. So that's what the remainder of this presentation will be, and I'll bounce in and out of this slide deck to show you. But the first thing that engineering leadership is telling us is that teams work faster in Onshape, and there's a specific reason why. It's because with traditional CAD, the cycle of development is very serial, meaning people work in stages, one stage at a time. But with Onshape, you can work in parallel. And there's a specific reason for that, and it has to do with our technology. We allow multiple people to work at the same model at the same time, whether that be assembly or part. And that allows you to do things in parallel. It's that whole copy problem. You're not worried about overwriting other people's files. You're not worried about check in, check out with Onshape. And let me show you, if you haven't seen it, let me show you what that looks like. So right now we're in a Chrome browser window. I'm running the Google slide, and I'm going to go right to Onshape and sign in. Now, if you haven't seen our interface, these are projects. And I'll go to this project here, which is a rather large one. It's a casting in a manufacturing fixture. And what I'd like to show you is any document that you see, so you have a CAD application running in your browser, full CAD application running in your browser, and anytime you're working on a document, you can just hit the share button and share with other people. And in this case, I've shared with a peer of mine, Cody Armstrong. And it's also interesting if you haven't familiarized yourself with this, you can set the permission on how they share. So I don't have to email Cody a file. I just share him into the one master version of this file, which is up in the cloud, and Cody can join. And I wanted to show you what that looks like. So what I'm going to do is actually run 2 sessions simultaneously, so you can see what it's like when 2 people are actually in one document together. So we have Darren on the left and Darren on the right. And you can see when someone joins the document, you can actually see their initial here. So you see I have a pink Darren and a green Darren, and you'll just have to assume that it's 2 different people working in 2 different locations. One thing you'll notice is people can actually, we're working on the same exact model, and you have independent views. Now, if we were working together, maybe we had a conference call going and we wanted to talk together about this, we could actually sync our views. Just click the initial of the other person, and when that other person rotates, you can see. So maybe on a conference call, we're talking about, this positioning hole here, and is it in the right location, that kind of thing. You can work asynchronously too. Just click in the white space, and you'll have an independent view once again. Asynchronously, you can add, chats and comments. So here, Cody added some chats earlier, or I'm sorry, some comments earlier, and he's asking, is the port diameter right? If I just click that comment, it'll rotate exactly to the port, the orientation where he added that comment. So we don't have to work simultaneously, but we can. The important thing is no copies are needed. We're actually always working on the latest version, right? The latest version of this model. Okay, but here's where it gets interesting, because we can work simultaneously. So if you notice here, let me just sort of go to an isometric view in this view. All right, so this is one view, one person's working, this is the other view. In this view over here, this person is going to insert a new work holding clamp. So we'll add this work holding clamp, and I'll place it out here in space. And the second I do that, you'll see that work holding clamp appear in the other person's screen. We are working together. This person might insert a hoist ring. So put a hoist ring over here, and when that person inserts that hoist ring, you can see it appear right here. This person may go ahead and fasten the work holding clamp into position. If you haven't seen us do this, it's really quite amazing. We just pick 2 points and solve, and you can see it's positioned correctly. You can rotate that around if you'd like and position it in the right orientation. And you can see the clamp is now in the right orientation over here. This person may go ahead and build upon the work of the person on the right, and I don't know, maybe replicate that that hydraulic work holding clamp into all of the hydraulic ports. So let's do that right now. So you can see that, and when I accept, all the hydraulic clamps are over here. And then, if there's any tedious work, like for example, let's say a customer is coming in and you just want to position these, or you're doing a rendering, we can work together. This person can quickly move this clamp into the right orientation. This person could move another clamp into the right orientation. So we're sharing workloads, whether that be design workloads or whether that be assembly workloads. We can do it simultaneously in a shorter amount of time. And we're the only CAD solution that we know of that will allow this simultaneous editing. It's really quite powerful. Just to take it one step further, what I'd like to do is actually show you how we can access this on a phone as well. So Onshape has apps that work on tablets and phones, and I'm trying to actually broadcast my iPhone to the screen. There it is. And what I'll do is I'll run the Onshape app. And even though this is on a smartphone, we have the ability to have it's a full CAD system. You know, we're leveraging the computational power of other computers, the Onshape servers, and it works extremely fast no matter what device you're on. But we've optimized the interface for smartphones. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the swing arm. Here, you can see the red swing arm that you can see in all the rest of this fixture. And what I'll do is, there's a red swing arm here. Let's zoom in on it. And you can see that even with mobile devices, we have the ability to work together. I'm just going to change this appearance to something slightly blue. And when I accept, you see that everyone's document updates. So this literally could be an engineer on the East Coast, an engineer on the West Coast, and somebody at a customer site editing data simultaneously together and saving, you know, cycles, because they're not, wait till I get back to the office. They're not saying, well, wait till I'm done the file and I'll check it in for you and then you can do your work. We're working together. So I think it's a huge, you know, this is a great example of what's the potential is, and this is what the companies that have embraced Onshape are recognizing as a huge benefit. Okay, let's go ahead and I will shut this window. I'll stretch this out and we'll continue on the presentation and talk about the second benefit that we're being told exists, and that's better version control and faster iterations. So not only are we working together, but you know, realize too that in Onshape, we're storing all the project information in one location. It's not file-based. So here you can see we have not only the hydraulic work holding clamp, we have the hoist ring assembly. It's all stored together in this project. And as the project evolves, you know, and we're reaching milestones, everything is version controlled together. Version control is built in. Let me jump out of this document and go into a new document and sort of talk about our version control capabilities. It's important you know that you never save in Onshape, and Onshape's constantly recording the history of every interaction that you do. So, and you can restore to any point, any state, no matter how old the document is. I can restore to states from last year if the document was created last year. So you can recover. You've really unlimited undo back to the origin of the actual model. But if you're not familiar with our version control, the idea is when you reach a milestone, you can create a view-only write-protected version. And this is sort of what we call a mutable version. So it's always protected. You can always get back to that version. Everyone can see what the latest version is. Look at our graphic tree if you haven't seen it. Let me make sure you're seeing this on GoToWebinar. So the dark circle represents versions. The open circle represents work in progress. And we're not doing save as copy, you know. It's all stored together. Work in progress, different variations, as well as our versions is all stored in one location. So if I asked you, even if you're not familiar with our tree, what's the latest version? Chances are you're going to say V3. It's the darkest circle at the top of the chain, and it tracks when that was created. If I ask you how many versions have occurred in this sort of history, you'll say 3. If I ask you how many workspaces have occurred, you'll say there's 3 as well, and the latest is on top. It's our main one. So these are stages, sort of bookmark sort of states of the model at different locations. And think about what you would do in a traditional CAD. You would, you know, do your different versions as you're evolving your product, and as you want to test variations, you would do save as copy, save as copy, save as copy. So here we can look. The main version, the latest work in progress, is what you see here. It's a simple bracket. It does not have any fillets on the main body. It does have fillets on the side. We can see that we've spawned off new workspaces to experiment. Experiment 1 was based off version 1. Experiment 2 was based off version 2. but we can go to those and look at those. So let's go to experiment 1, which is an angled flange. So someone had the idea early on in the design cycle to, add some angles to this flange, and they actually put in some big fillets on the outside as well. But it doesn't look like it's sized correctly, and it is missing a fillet on the top, and it's missing some holes here. How does this compare to the main workspace, the one that's sort of the latest work? Well, we can compare it. So let's do that right now. We're going to hit compare, and Onshape can, because everything's stored together, can give you a visual comparison of two different states in the model. So the experimental has an angled flange, and the main one is a different size altogether, and you can see that the new one has a pilot hole on the side, it has a fillet here, and two holes as well. You can see that graphically by using the slider, and you can see the history tree. You can see that sketches and extrude exist in main that don't exist in experiment 1. Okay, so as we look at this history, and let's go back to the main workspace, we can see we've done these two experiments. Now, what would happen in traditional CAD if you did a save as copy and worked on the angle flange and then said to yourself, I really like that angle flange. I'd like to incorporate that back into my main design. You would recreate that angled flange from scratch. That's how traditional CAD works. You try your variations, and then you do redundant work to sort of merge that into your main design. With Onshape, because we store it all together, there's not copies of files. We can take advantage of work done in different variations and merge them together. And let me show you how that works. We're in the main workspace, but we like something in the angled flange workspace. We can just say merge, and look at that. The new result is you have the pilot hole, you have the chamfer from experiment 1, the fillet from your current work, the angled flange, your holes, and the fillets. Everything is merged together. And it's in the history, so if there's something we don't like, so for example, this fillet, we could just simply suppress it. So you have full control. But the important thing here is we're not recreating work. It's a fast way to iterate, and because we store it all together, everyone can access the different iterations, and it's very clear and easy to understand what is the latest sort of versions, the releases, and what are the work in progress. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Someone's asking, do you have the concept of revisions as well as versions? And right now we don't. So what people are doing for a major release, they're just renaming the versions something different. But it's a good question. But remember, a lot of times people will check in and create a version just to save their work. You don't have that requirement with Onshape. Okay, let me run back to the slide and talk about another advantage that people are reporting back, and that's easier to work with suppliers and customers. So think about this. We surveyed a lot of people. The number one way people are sharing data with customers and suppliers is through email and something like Dropbox. And that's, again, creating copies. And you share with the supplier and then you decide to make a change. You have to remember to let the supplier know that you've made a change. Or you're sharing with a customer, the same sort of thing. Or worst case, supplier makes a change. You have to update your data and then communicate that to a customer. With a lot of copies, you're managing a lot of things. But one thing that we're really finding is a headache when dealing with companies outside your organization is file compatibility. People are saying, wow, you sent me a SOLIDWORKS 2016 part and I have 2014. You sent me a Creo 3 part and I have Creo 1. That type of file incompatibility. Or you're hitting file size limitations. Hey, I tried to email you the file, but it's over 10 megs and your mailbox only allows a 4 meg. Can you set up an FTP site? Sure. Oh, I don't have access to Dropbox. We use box.net. There's a lot of headaches that go along, friction. With Onshape, we remove all that. If someone doesn't have an Onshape account and you share a document with them, we create one for them. All I have to do is set up their password. So it's really neat. Let me show you how that works. By the way, before I leave the slide, everyone can translate data on the fly with Onshape, and that's interesting too. So let me show you what I'm talking about. If we go back out, we'll create a brand new document. and we'll just call this customer. So let's say we want to share something with a customer, and this is an empty document. When you create an empty document, you get 2 tabs at the bottom by default, Apart, Studio, and Assembly. I'm going to delete this Assembly. It's empty, so it's pretty clear. And I'm going to actually upload, and in this case, I'm going to use Onshape to share a SolidWorks native document. So I'm going to hit Import. I'm going to go out to my drive, and I'm going to grab this bracket, which is a SolidWorks SLD PRT. Now, the first thing you'll notice is 2 more tabs appear. It's very quick, right? 2 more tabs appear right here. And in fact, I'll delete this empty one so you can see. So the first tab that appears is the SLD PRT file. The second tab is the translated file into Onshape. So this gives you the full geometry, and there it is. And you can see it's imported geometry. It came from SolidWorks. This is in the cloud. This is in our data storage. So anytime we just hit the share button and put in anyone's name, we can say, hey, we'd like this person to access this data, maybe edit and share, maybe view, maybe just view. So we'll just have this person view. Okay. At any point, we can change their permission. You know, maybe it was view to give us a quote. Now we decided to go and do business with them, so we want them to be able to edit. So we changed their permission. Maybe we didn't like their quote. Have you ever tried to retract an email? You can't do it. Here, we basically can just stop them from having access to this document as well. Just hit the X and they're gone from the document. They don't have rights to access your IP anymore. But here's what's important. Anybody you share this with, or if this file was shared with you, and you have SolidWorks installed on your PC, this is a Mac, but let's assume you had a PC, you can actually download that native SolidWorks data and work on it just like you would downloading a file out of Dropbox. There it is. SLD PRT, I'll open it up in SolidWorks, I can work on it. But if you don't have access, well, let's stay with this scenario for a minute. So you do have SolidWorks local, you download it, you can work on it. But let's say you have an older version of SolidWorks. If I shared with Dropbox or I emailed you, you'd get a phone call, and the phone call would be like, hey, can you translate it out to a Parasolid because I have an older version of SolidWorks. And you're doing that same process over again. Then they call you and they say, hey, I'm having a problem opening the Parasolid file. Hey, can you add the parts? You didn't add all the parts in the assembly you shared. These are all common phone calls that people get when they try to share data outside their organization. But with Onshape, if you had an older version of, this is the SLD PRT tab, we're working with the file, and if you had an older version of SolidWorks, no problem. Just hit export and write out your own Parasolid of this SLD PRT. You can translate on the fly. In fact, if you had Pro E, go ahead and write out a step file. If you have Autodesk Inventor, write out an ASYS file. Otherwise, on IGES, we even support Rhino. So people can take your data, and instead of sharing it with Dropbox, they can share it with Onshape, and they can translate it to any format they need on the fly. They'll never have to call you to get the right format. Sort of nice. Or if people share with you, you never have to call them, right? So mandate they share with Onshape. Now, if they don't have a CAD system, guess what? They do now because you shared with Onshape. We created an account for them. And here it is. Look at this beautiful model, fully precise. We're based off the same kernel as SolidWorks. So SolidWorks translates very nicely. And look at this. You have all these direct editing tools. So we can actually, change holes, and we'll change this hole here in distance, maybe make it smaller. We could wire that down with the dimension if we want. We can change fillets. Let me try that right now. I'm going to try to change just this fillet here, 0.125. You can see I can change fillets. I can add fillets to it if I want to change more of those. Sort of nice, right? We can delete features too if this hole's the wrong side, or move holes. Let's try to move this hole. I'm just going to hit move. I'm going to pick this face, and this face. We'll move along this direction, and we'll just move that a little bit like this. You get the idea. You can do a lot of direct editing capabilities right within Onshape. And Remember that version control. So let's say they downloaded that SLD PRT and they made a change in SOLIDWORKS. They can upload it back in and hit version. And guess what? Now you have version control tracking with your suppliers and your vendors. It's really nice. And this is what people really like. They're mandating that Onshape become the way to share data because they can translate on the fly, always see it in a pinch. They can open it up on any device. This SOLIDWORKS part is now viewable and editable on a tablet. When has that occurred? Using SOLIDWORKS native geometry, it now works with Onshape. One thing I want to point out too is, think about supply chain visibility. With our enterprise level package, we're showing you analytics because we track everything people do on the server. And for enterprise customers, we want to allow you to have that data to make better engineering leadership decisions. So with our enterprise, this is actually coming. This is something that's not released yet. But you can see that a company here, presidential engineering, could actually look at their users. They can find out things like how security set up per user. When was the last time they accessed the system? You could dive into a user and find out what projects he's working on. And dive into projects and tell who has access to that project and how many hours they've put in. So it's really nice. Let me go back one and talk about users. I clicked too fast. You can see the really nice capability where you can dive in and see exactly what a user is working on and how much time they've put into it. People are telling us that Onshape has greater affordability. So, look at the hidden fees associated with traditional CAD. There's license fees, annual maintenance and subscription, data management costs, hardware costs. The hidden fee is the IT requirement to maintain and update. People updating drivers, people downloading large updates. Maybe it's the annual update, maybe it's a service pack. Engineers waste half a day reconfiguring their system every time an update's pushed that they want to adopt. We're looking at total first-year costs between $12,000 and $18,000 per user. With Onshape, you pay as you go. We have monthly subscriptions as well as annual. $1,200 per user per year is our annual subscription. But you could easily scale that up monthly with interns and everything. You just pay $100 a month. And your hardware, we run on mid-range computers because we're doing the computational work on our servers. So this means you don't need to buy the latest and greatest portable workstation. You can run on mid-range computers. We have videos of people running on a $300 Chromebook. So you're spending between $800 and $2,000. Now I'm running this demo on a MacBook Pro. It's 18 months old and it costs about $2,000. But really your costs are just a fraction, $2,000 to $4,000 depending on your hardware, with $1,200 being the annual subscription, which is nice. By the way, people ask, well, what about uptime? It's true we need an internet connection, but our servers are up. 99.9% is what we're averaging now. It's an incredible amount of uptime. And, we're really removing the burden of crashing. Think about it. Every time you run an Onshape session, we're refreshing your session for you. It's a server dedicated to CAD. It doesn't have other applications running. There's no conflicts with other applications. And, we virtually eliminated lost work because we're recording everything as you go. If there is a problem, you just refresh your browser and you're good to go. I showed you it running on mobile devices. You may ask, well, are you just viewing or are you creating and editing geometry? With Onshape, we're finding 1 in every 6 session is being run on mobile devices, and our professional users are editing, creating versions, and creating new CAD geometry on the mobile devices. We have some that are only using our tablet interface. They don't even use workstations. So it is being adopted heavily by our professional users, and we're real excited about that. It was something we weren't sure of as we went to market, but it seems like it's resonating very well with our professional users. You can download those apps free on our apps on the Apple App Store as well as Google Play. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is how you can customize Onshape, because this is something that really increases productivity no matter what industry you're in. and that's the ability to customize CAD. Onshape is the first professional CAD system to share its source code on how we write our features, the features we use to create geometry. We've created a development environment for you to develop your own features or edit our features. And this is something much better than an API and macro, because you're able to write first-class CAD features that work similar to our extrude, revolve, sweep commands that we've put into our product. And this is something that many organizations are extremely excited about. You can automate complex tasks and your common task. You can create new industry-specific features, and you no longer have to wait till the CAD company develops what you want. You have the opportunity to develop equal functionality yourself. That's what's exciting. People are doing everything from component generators to advanced combinations of features. This is Philip Pocket, to a truss generator, a foil generator, a lightning tool. If you do something over and over again and wish the CAD company would address that need, you have now the power to address that need yourself within Onshape. You can build your own features. You can utilize other people's features, and there's a number of them out there to share. And you could actually pay somebody to build it if you didn't have programming skills. It's really exciting. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go out, and we're going to talk about a company that makes hydraulic manifolds over and over again. So we're going to go to this port tool. Now, they make a hydraulic fitting, and this is something that, a CAD vendor may not invest the time in building a hydraulic port generator, but with FeatureScript, they can. So notice, here's all the standard features. With Onshape, we can just use a port feature. The interface is built by Onshape. They don't have to program the interface. They have a number of different sizes to choose from, and all you have to do is pick a point. And this actual code was generated in a few hours by actually someone in marketing. It wasn't even a programmer. And we can even pick a face here and put it on a different face. And now that that feature exists, it's completely editable. Just like any other feature, it can be reordered. And it really just saves productivity. Think about if you generated these ports over and over again, how you would do it. With Onshape, you can build that feature, and it works just like any other feature. It's not a overlying code that you're not sure if it will break when the software vendor updates the software. This is using the same code as our traditional features. You never have to worry about it updating or updating your macro. It will always work just like our code does. I'll show you another example. This is one from the furniture manufacturer. This is called Dow Minifix, and if you look at this cabinet, this furniture manufacturer over and over again uses specialty fasteners. This is called a Minifix fastener. And I'll go to Part Studio 1 and show you how they built a custom feature. They actually used a college student to program this for them. But let me show you how it works. I'm going to delete this and show you from scratch. So this feature allows you to put in dowels, and all you have to do is pick the tenon face, which will be, I'll use select other, this face here, and it adds the dowels and the holes. It cuts those simultaneously. You can put them on the other side. It knows not to cut because there's not a second part. And we can do the Minifix as well. So we'll add these Minifix. It's drilling a number of different holes as well as perpendicular holes or recesses for the Minifix cams. And of course, we can change the number of those as well. So this customer does this all day on multiple faces, and they're saying that they're seeing like a 30x productivity and gain because they've added this type of feature. It's pretty nice stuff. So I wanted to spend some time and talk about the feedback we're getting on what an ideal first project would be for Onshape. So obviously Onshape's, we have a free subscription and a professional subscription. We're recommending you start with a professional subscription and you try a real manufacturing project. This is what the feedback we're getting. The first one is that it's a team-based project. The benefits we showed you today a lot has to do with the collaboration and working together with people. So if you're just evaluating as an individual, you're really just going to be looking at the CAD tools, which is really a subset of what's possible with Onshape. So we're recommending that you do a team-based project, multiple people and or locations. We're recommending a small to medium-sized assembly. You don't just want to do part design. You want to try an assembly, and you don't want to do a massive machine of thousands of components. You want to see if the benefits apply to your company with a nice, decent size. So we're saying a small to medium assembly. Average in complexity. Again, don't throw the most complex problems at it, but don't throw simple things either. You really want to look at things you do from day to day. And, when possible, include suppliers and customers. Try working outside your organization, the engineering department maybe, and try working, outside your entire company. Get sales involved, get these product models on their laptops and mobile devices as well. There's a huge opportunity for the customization, and I hope it did it justice. There's more webinars on feature script, but evaluate your most common tasks, right? The tasks that are complex that you do over and over again. Survey all your CAD users on what they find to be tedious with their existing CAD. This is the first time that engineers have the ability to define features that are what we call first-class citizens that work exactly like native features in a CAD system. And because we're sharing the source code of our features, you can actually edit our features to suit your needs. If the split command doesn't work the same way, you can change it. If you need to extrude differently, you can change the extrude command and use your own version of that. Generate a wish list of all the features that you'd want and talk about that and what that would mean as a productivity gain, because with Onshape, it's definitely customizable either by yourself because it's a JavaScript-based language, or consulting. We can put you in contact with some consultants that can program for you as well. Okay, and then I want to say thank you. I want to I appreciate your time sitting through this webinar. My email is dhenry@onshape.com. If you wish to email me for any reason, any questions that you might have or any guidance that you might need, just go ahead and do that, and I'll be happy to respond to you. All right, I'm looking at the questions that we're getting asked right now. And one question is about migrating your current projects into Onshape. So we read a number of different formats. So you can bring the geometry over. We read SOLIDWORKS assemblies. We read SOLIDWORKS part data, Inventor part data, CATIA part data, as well as the neutral file formats like Parasolid, Step, IGES. So, you definitely can bring over that geometry. If you're looking to migrate an entire project just to safekeep it, just upload those files. When I say we read, it means you can upload as well as translate that CAD data into Onshape so you see the geometry. But we can store any file format up in the cloud if you just want to archive and keep a safe copy that's version controlled in the cloud. So any file format, Microsoft Word, PDF documents, anything can be imported into Onshape. I don't know if we'd recommend, bringing over legacy projects that you're not going to be continually working on, but the tool sets are there, and you can work with them, especially the direct editing tools. Okay, someone's asking for the time frame for sheet metal. So I can't give you the explicit date of when sheet metal will be released. I will say it is on a roadmap. And like I said earlier, it's a matter of months rather than years that you wait for things. But I can tell you that we've seen demonstrations of early prototypes of it, so it's well within development, and we think it'll be relatively soon. All right, well, this concludes our webinar. I appreciate it. Again, if you have any additional questions, please email me at dhenry@onshape.com. So thank you. Have a good day.